are now this, and if you want it, you do this. You make sure that everybody gets that. It's public knowledge.
Yeah.
Then 3, you then must give time and say, from this time on,
this shall be implemented.
We are going to then impose the regulation, and people have full information. People know what they want to do. People are involved. You cannot support local business, local manufacturers by disadvantaging local business. So if the manufacturer is assumed that what the manufacturers were producing was now what is in the market, and now we are blocking this one. That's an unfair trade business. In fact, it's not unfair. I wonder whether it is only at the depot where we have this problem, or is this permitting throughout the government system, where officers actually do not involve stakeholders, do not announce what they are doing, do not inform the public, and do not give adequate time. And even if that happens, when things start blocking in your place, and you can hear there's a holdup, it doesn't have to take president to come to go to that depot. I'm even surprised he went twice.
I know.
Because the fact that he went once should have been enough information.
Yes.
I think when he was living there the second time, we should have seen somebody leaving his job, Magufuli style.
Yeah.
So, get the message clearly.
Yeah. Honorable Wambua, do you believe it is a question of balance?
It is good. It is good to strike a healthy balance.
Yeah.
But we must also disabuse the public of the notion that whatever is imported can be produced locally.
Locally, yeah.
We cannot overprotect our businesses. It is good to protect the manufacturing sector. It is good to protect and nurture a local business. But it is equally good to take note of the fact that if we are going to produce for local consumption and export of surplus, we should also expect that we'll import something from other people.
Yeah.
So that balance is important. And as Mheshimiwa said, then again, the fact that the president has made the initial visit, and the following day he makes a second visit.
One,
There's a big problem.
I know.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
By virtue of him being president, the fact that he went there just once should be enough to make things act. But then it's expected that in the next 3 weeks, those containers shall be released as ordered by the president. Now, the Daily Nation today is reminding us of how broke we are. It's telling us the broke Kenya applies for World Bank loan. And just to read an excerpt from that, it says, barely weeks after getting a 210 billion euro bond, Treasury CS Rotich is looking for another 75 shilling billion to finance President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda, or Big Four projects. That is detailed further on page 6 of The Nation. Now, when we see this talk of loans and more loans, Dr. Nikal, what do you feel about it?
Well, it means we are living beyond our means. Everybody knows that in terms of loans, we've taken so much loans, and it's going to take us a long time to pay. People should realize that when we raise revenue, actually almost the first charge goes to paying loans.
Absolutely.
So we'll find that the payment of loans will actually starve us of resources that we need for internal development and internal activity.
Right.
So I think we should really look at their fixed ratios, and probably when we get back to Parliament, we can look at it in the Senate as well. Have we gone beyond that ratio? And the other thing is, what are we doing with the loans? We have taken a lot of loans. I would expect that by this time, the loans we took are actually now giving revenue, resulting in better production across the country, so that now we should not only be paying those loans, but we should also now be having money arriving from those activities.
Absolutely.
So if we're just taking loans, and we are not sure what the loans are doing, any business person, and the state is not excluded, the country is not excluded, you take a loan to do something which will give you returns that, one, will pay the loan, and two, give you some little excess to run your affairs.
Right.
And
Now,
I think that's simply how it should be.
Yeah.
We're not happy with loans all the time.
Now, we're being told that it is for budget support, which is not tied to specific projects and can be used to fund politically important activities, as they mentioned, the big four agenda projects. Now, but then there's the question of corruption, and we're further being told the cash could also be vulnerable to appropriation by corrupt political elite. Senator Wambua.
Not necessarily political elite. I mean, a lot of people have access to these finances.
Yeah.
What I would say to that is that two things. One, there is nothing absolutely wrong with borrowing. Accessing credit is a good thing. I think the question to ask ourselves is, are we managing our public finances in a prudent manner? And if the answer to that question is no, then we should first stop borrowing and tighten the gaps and the leakages in the system to ensure that the monies that we access as loans are utilized properly, so that when it comes to repayment, there's reason to repay.
Absolutely.
It doesn't make sense to borrow so much money and all of it, or a big portion of it, is stolen, and yet Kenyans will have to repay that loan. That reminds me of countries that have developed, really have had to access credit and partnerships with other nations. Look at the Marshall Plan after the Second World War. The Marshall Plan by the US is the plan that really revived the economy of Europe as we know it today. They accessed credit, they partnered with other states, they were able to utilize their finances properly, and they are where they are today. We are accessing too much credit. I'm not sure we are using it well.
Using it for, and that is a question that is the nation is going into and giving us more details. Now, during the break, you raised it, Senator Wambua, that these cases of man killing wife, and yesterday we had a similar story about a man killing a wife and then dunked himself into a toilet latrine, which is pretty bizarre. And I mean, another story is making headlines on the Standard, and we are being told a tragedy. Man kills Jezebel, wife, and hangs himself. And this is a 50-year-old man who left residents of Kiamumbi Estate, Kiambu County, in shock after he struck his wife dead, then committed suicide. In a suicide note he left behind for his 4 children, he blamed his actions on his troubled marriage. This is a 50-year-old couple. I mean, really, really sad, and it's being detailed on page 3 of the Standard. Now, Senator Wambua, what do you feel about this one? It's clearly a trend.
It's a terrible thing.
Yes.
And as I was saying during the break, I think it is time now that this nation needs to go on a retreat with itself. And ask ourselves very fundamental questions.
What's going on?
What is the problem? Last week, it was a police officer attached to Parliament who was found murdered in a house. Today, it's a 50-year-old. Exactly. So it's a tragedy that is cross-cutting age groups,
generations.
There's a feeling that people are depressed. Kenyans are depressed. There's too much depression in this country, and I think it has everything to do with the cost of living and the inability of a lot of people to make their ends meet, and then they are unable to manage small little problems in marriages, in relationships. They are boiling inside, so a small trigger makes them explode. So there's need to look at this matter and really call attention to ourselves and go on a retreat.
How do we solve it? Because it seems to be a trend. 2019 has been a bloody year in terms of the headlines. And then I'm wondering, should we have a campaign that calls for divorce is okay if it's not working out, or should it be a conflict resolution campaign, or should it be a mental health campaign? Where do we even start in dealing with this, Dr. Nikas?
Well, first of all, you should start by saying, why is it happening?
Yeah.
Again, when we investigate issues like this,
Right.
I think there's one element that is not coming out. I think we investigate the criminal element, what actually happened, who did what. I don't think we go into adequate details as to why it is happening. So on top of just investigating, I think we should start gathering data at national level of why this thing is happening. It's possible that if people live in a state where people are not happy, they cannot make ends meet, people are distressed, they have no avenues of resolving even family conflicts, then actually they can resort to suicide. So we need to look at what is the bigger picture. But even before we do that, we must then look at the moral situation. What is the moral values in our country? How is the relationship between couples? There is a serious change in gender relationships.
Absolutely.
And the power structure between man and woman in couples. These are things we should look at even as early as in our childhood. What do we teach our children? What do children grow to know? This is how I relate with my wife. How do people say, how do you resolve conflict? Do people still ask go to church, or do people go to counselors, or do people go to their neighbors? So it's a broader issue. We need to look at why and start to address it nationally.
Yeah, we need to get to the root causes. And that concludes our section of press review. Our Morning Express is going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more for you. Do not go too far. See you on the other side.